Greetings, everyone. Chapter 28, Section 1, last part here. All right, I just kind of want to go over a couple of things. This shouldn't be too long. We did the election of Reagan yesterday, the defeat of Carter, the introduction to President Reagan, and what becomes known as the conservative movement. All right, I just want to go over a couple of things. We're going to kind of do a few presidents here. All right, literally, we'll bang out 4 or 5 presidents here just so you could be introduced to him. All right, President Reagan, incredibly popular, but however, had a negative aspect to it too. He had a very famous line: "Government is not the solution to the problem, but government is the problem." All right, he tried to reduce spending and taxes to get the economy going. It's known as Reaganomics. Problem is, he spent a fortune. Okay, the reason why he's going to spend a fortune is because he's going to outspend the Soviet Union to end the Cold War, which we'll dive more, and I believe when we get into Section 2. When he leaves after 2 terms in '89, he's very unpopular, but the budget's not balanced. Government's in a deficit. He did restore faith in the presidency. He had a major breakthroughs in the Cold War. He's known as the great communicator. So Reagan is looked upon favorably when he leaves office. Problem is going to be that deficit that he leaves the next guy. Here is Reagan, 81 to 89. Here he is being sworn in. Showed you this the other day. This is a stand-up picture. This is his wife, Nancy, former President Carter. All right, following him is his vice president, George H.W. Bush, who wins the election in '88, and he's got a famous line: "Read my lips, no new taxes." The problem is, Reagan left such a deficit. They were so broke, Bush has to raise taxes, okay, to make up some of that spending. And because of that, the economy in '91 is in a recession, unemployment is high, and he's gonna be blamed for this. Now he did the right thing. A lot of people will agree to raise taxes to make up that deficit, but he went back on his promise. All right, he will be president from '89 to '93. Here he is being sworn in. It's a good photo here. All right, this is President Reagan being sworn, leaving. All right, this is 1989. New President Bush. Here is his son, who 8 years later will be the next president. Yeah. President George H.W. Bush only does 1 term because he loses in '92 to Bill Clinton. All right, he calls himself the New Democrats. He's talking about reduced spending, cutting the deficit in half. He works with Congress. The stock market surges, unemployment's low. It's a good time period. All right, this is the computer age, or known as the dot-com age. People are making money. The problem is Bill Clinton in 1996 wins re-election, but he is involved in one of the major political scandals of any president, where he's accused of having an improper relationship with a White House intern in the White House, known as Monica Lewinsky. Um, Long story short, he has to go to trial for this, and in trial, he says that he had nothing to do with it. And then it later comes out that he did have something to do with it, which means he lied under oath. That is a crime. In December of '98, Clinton will be impeached. He's one of 3 presidents to be impeached. All right, President Andrew Johnson after the Civil War, President Clinton in '98, and recently President Trump in 2019. All right, however, the Senate does not convict him and he remains in office. And even despite the scandals, when he leaves office, he is very popular. And here he is, 1993 to 2001. Here he is being sworn in. Here's his vice president, Al Gore. Here's his wife, Hillary Clinton. He will run for president. She will run for president. A lot of famous people in these photos. And then we get to the election of 2000, where George W. Bush, the son of George H.W. Bush, the governor of Texas, will run against Vice President Al Gore. It is one of the closest elections in history. Gore actually wins more votes. Bush wins the electoral votes. There's a huge issue in Florida, and again, if we were with each other, I would explain this more in detail. Well, they actually take weeks to count the state of Florida. Gore thinks he wins it. Bush thinks he wins it until eventually the Supreme Court steps in and will give Florida to President Bush, to Governor Bush at the time, which gives enough money. I've said enough money. I was reading surplus money. Enough electoral votes to President Bush to win the election. Okay? So when Bush takes over, he wants tax cuts. He creates No Child Left Behind, which is an educational standard for testing. All right, and things are progressing. He's president for 8 years. Unfortunately, for President Bush, he will also be faced with 9/11, which we will talk more about. Here he is being sworn in with Laura Bush, his 2 daughters, and his vice president. Okay, and this is a famous photo that was taken when Senator Obama becomes President-elect Obama. Okay, And these at the time in 2008, this picture is 2008. These were the 5 living presidents of the United States. All right, 2008, it was President Bush, President Clinton, President Carter, President George H.W. Bush, and President elect at the time, Senator Obama, who will become President Obama. He is sworn in shortly after this photo was taken. It's a great photo. I love showing this photo. Even now, President George H.W. Bush passed away, I believe, a year or two ago. So these men right here, the only 4 men living that have served as president in the White House with President Trump today. There's only 5 of them alive. All right, Carter 76 to 80, Clinton 92 to 2000, Bush 2008, Obama 8 to 16, and then President Trump 16-20, and obviously he's up for re-election next year. All right. So again, just really touching on the presidencies quick of Carter, Clinton, Bush, and Bush. All right, and ending Reagan until ultimately we'll dive more into President Bush presidency when we get into the September 11th attack and the rise of terror, and we'll finish the end of the Cold War shortly before that. All right, guys, if you have any questions, email me, text me, complete your homework on section 1, and then we'll get into more next week. Take care, guys.